Be empowered. Be strong. Take charge. Speak life. Live life abundantly. Get with it now. You are now entering the chat room. Health Chat with Coach Jean, that is, where we debate, debunk, educate, empower, impart, and raise awareness on all things related to health, healing, and holistic well-being, body, mind, and spirit. Let's go.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is your girl. This is Coach Jean Turner. Welcome, everybody, to the chat room. Health Chat with Coach Jean, that is. Thank you for tuning in on this evening. So, hey, you know how we do. If you are on Facebook, go on over to the Health Chat with Coach Jean and post your comments and questions in real time. If you like to tweet, then I invite you to go on over to Twitter at chat_coach to tweet your questions or comments. And if you're not on social media and would prefer to email me, then feel free to do that as well. Go on and shoot me that email at healthchatwithcoachjean, that's JEAN, @gmail.com to post your questions and comments for tonight's show. So before we get started, let's go ahead and just have a quick word of prayer. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we come before you on this evening, thanking you for another opportunity to come before your people. And I ask and pray that something said on tonight during this broadcast will help to encourage, will help to empower the listener, that they will take charge of their health. In your mighty name, Father. We thank you now for our producer. We thank you for our guest. And we just thank you for this opportunity to come before you once again. In your precious Son's name we do pray. Amen, amen, and amen. So listen, if you are entering the chat room for the very first time, last week we began our Men's Health series in honor of Men's Health Month. For those who didn't know, June is Men's Health Month. And so last week we kicked it off discussing the topic cardiovascular health in men. And today, which is part 2 of our Men's Health series, we are going to go ahead and focus on stress and burnout in men. So, ladies, if you are tuned in, now, you know sometimes we have to give our men that little nudge they need, that encouragement they need to take better care of themselves, right? And so what men may call, quote, unquote, nagging, for us, we just showing that we care, right? And so, fellas, let me say, when we stop caring, hey, then you got something to worry about. That's when you need to be concerned. Right, ladies? All right. I hope y'all feeling me on tonight. And so with that said, I want to go ahead and give an early shout-out, early happy Father's Day. This Sunday's Father's Day. I want to give an early happy Father's Day shout-out to all the dads. Happy Father's Day to those of you who are serving as father figures in the lives of others. We salute you. I just want to start off by saying that now before I bring on my guest, because I may forget. Sometimes my mind is a terrible thing to waste. And with that said, let's get with it, shall we? And so my guest joining me in the chat room tonight, I'm excited. He is a licensed independent social worker. Okay, he holds a master in social work from Akron University in Ohio. He is a retired Army major who served in 2 separate 15-month tours in Iraq in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. And you all know that I'm very transparent. And I have been very transparent in sharing my journey when I was going through my health challenge in 2018 and 2019. And for those who don't know, and you tuning in and hear my voice for the very first time, you will get an opportunity to hear my story at another time. But in the meantime, my guests served on my medical team and helped me to maintain my psychological health and well-being during that dark time in my life. He's a fellow veteran and my friend. I'm glad that I have the opportunity to call him friend. So, Mr. Leon Rainey, are you in the virtual building?
Coach Jean, I am in the virtual building. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How you doing, my friend? What's up?
I'm good. I was a little stressed. I'm sitting here waiting on you guys to come aboard, and I'm thinking, did I dial the wrong number? Are you guys with me? I'm like, what's going on? But as soon as I heard your voice, I was good. Oh,
well, I'm glad. I'm so glad to have you join me in the chat room on tonight. And so I want to begin. Okay, first I want you to take about 2 to 3 minutes and just share with the people a little bit about what you do, your primary role, duties, and the population that you currently serve right now.
Well, currently I work with what we call a soldier recovery unit here at Fort Benning, where I currently work. The soldiers that are transitioning through the process of either returning back to duty or to leave the military in whatever way that is deemed during the transition phase. My job, we're a multi-tiered treatment team, but my job is to help with the behavioral health piece of the program. So as soldiers come in, my job is to assess them for their risk of various issues, to include their individual, family risk levels, and we kind of like do a whole encompass a psychological makeup of them. And if they need any further assistance with respect to behavioral health needs, we ensure, or a part of my team, the number of social workers that we have on the team, our job is to ensure that they get that help that they need during that time. So that's primarily the job that I do in a nutshell.
Wow. And let me tell you that look, it is very much needed, not only within the military population, but out here in the civilian population as well.
Absolutely.
So I'm about to throw some statistics at you real quick, and then I'm going to let you jump back in. So, according to the World Health Organization, WHO, that we know them by who that be? No, stop. World Health Organization, stress is a worldwide epidemic. So that means it's a global problem. Stress-related burnout is now recognized by the World Health Organization as a chronic condition. And chronic, for those who don't know, means long-term, 6 months or more. And a recent 2019 study, only 20% of men report stress or deal with it, as compared to, now, according to this study here, women are a tad more stressed out than our male counterparts, but we are more likely to report that we're more stressed, and therefore, we are more likely to deal with our stress in some way, shape, form, or fashion, as compared to only 20% of men. And so, my friend, let me pose this to you. Based on that statistic alone, right, I want you to jump on in and from your professional expertise and your personal perspective, share with us why is it that, according to this study, only 20% of men report stress and deal with it?
Quite honestly, it's the old-fashioned, the well-known issues that men have always used as a reason why they don't deal with stress, and that is roles, expectations, things that they've been told within society as what a quote-unquote man should be and how they should act, looking at examples within their life of how men have conducted themselves in the past. There's something to be said when you kind of like say, what's a strong man? He sits tough, he sits strong, and he's kind of like, he doesn't talk much. That we sometimes look at that and we say, oh man, he's got it together. We don't understand that a lot of times what's going on with him, he's just not talking. I was thinking of something earlier today about the fact that why it's very evident why there's not very many male talk shows or any at all. We just don't do it. We've been told that that's just not something that we do as far as going through the process of dealing with our issues. And these things, when we don't do that, they manifest themselves in ways that are mostly negative, with different behavioral issues, psychological, physical issues. Many times they show up in ways that men won't state that it's stress that's the cause. We will look at it and say that is something else. The physical issues, the headaches, the migraines, the body aches. When those things begin to be continued, now you're dealing with things, and now your behavior begins to change. The irritability, the anger, the lashing out, and mama and the kids wondering what's wrong with you, and you won't articulate it. You're just kind of being in that state of being. And so our problem has been, and I'm not sure, I think it's changing a little bit. I think in today's society, we're kind of getting to a point where we are being, I guess, feeling more free to talk about our issues, but primarily the issue really kind of comes down to men do not articulate what is going on with them very well at all.
Wow. I know, my experience is like with my husband, I have two brothers, and, just being female in the military and most of my friends and coworkers being mostly largely male. I mean, it's a large female population in the military, but mostly a lot of male, working around them and being around them for so long, it's that suck it up buttercup mentality, to suck it up and drive on mentality. And you can ask, like I can ask my husband, he could just seem like he's in deep thought or something's going on. And I could be like, well, what's wrong, babe? What you thinking of? What's going on?
There's always a go-to. Nothing. If we got $1 for every time we said nothing, when our face is all crunched up and we slumped over, walking around like the weight of the world is on our shoulders, if we got $1 for every time we said nothing's going on and there really was something, we all be living in mansions and driving Ferraris.
You know what? I'd be in my Caribbean house somewhere, in Jamaica somewhere, one of the Caribbean islands. That's where I would be right about now. If I had cash every time I heard nothing in the last 21 years of marriage, I'd be in one of the $1 million mansions on the island.
Because Gene, the issue here with, I think a lot of that also comes with just the raising of our boys. And sometimes we're in this kind of interesting period where raising our boys has become, I guess, and just children in general, but I would say in relation to the topic, how we raise our boys and what we say to them when they exhibit certain behaviors and things of that nature, as they learn how to, grow and be a man and what's told to them, we then we play those things out in our socialization. And so now the time that he's up and he's ready to be your husband, now you've got this young man who was raised not to really kind of express himself in certain ways, to suck it up. You go into a tough occupation like the military. Well, it used to be tough when you and I were coming up through the ranks. I'm not sure what's going on now, but it was that suck it up and drive on mentality. If it wasn't hurting, and don't come to me with any of that foolishness. And so how we raise and how we talk to our boys and what's okay to discuss also has an impact on, I say, a lot of times the man that you got at home. Our problem,
and I agree with that,
is that we as men, what we'll do a lot of times is isolate ourselves, try to figure the thing out on our own, go and do, and like you say, those negative behaviors, and then like you say, if those things don't work, they haven't worked, and they will continue not to work.
Right. And you brought up a very good point, because I remember growing up in the 60s and 70s. I know my dad, may he rest in peace, he used to get so aggravated with my younger brother, if he would cry about something. I mean, he was only a kid at the time, but it was like, don't cry, stop crying. You don't cry, men don't cry, boys don't cry. You don't do this and you don't do that. So I agree with that. And I think nowadays, within the last 10, 20 years, we've seen, a shift take place to where now, I think it's more socially acceptable, for men to show their emotions more.
And for some people, it's an uncomfortable shift, because like many things, the way that we view ourselves and how we view others impacts that. So when we get to, I know that there's this shift of I remember when it was coming up, I guess, through the 80s or 90s, and this thing about being, I guess, a type of man who dressed very well and kind of, didn't have that rough kind of exterior. That began to be the type of guy that began to be acceptable. But now it's even gone further, where there's this question of how much do you want your man to express himself emotionally? Enough, but not too much. I like my man a little tough, but tough with them, not with me. So it becomes this thing where we're doing this dance, and so the problem becomes with that dance. And I just think about the fact of, even in society today, when you just talk about that role and what is a man, and when you begin to think about provider, protector, that guys who's strong. And so in the African American community as well, I mean, I guess primarily you think about the fact that unemployment is very high. Individuals that are in and out of prison is very high. When you talk about those roles and what this individual sitting up in the house with you, how does he then, show that side of himself where, he's that provider, protector, if he's not working, or, things are kind of like, sketchy with work, or doesn't feel as though they can protect his family and the people around him. I think about what's going on out here in the world right now, when we're talking about the people that are protesting the Black Lives Matter movement and what have you. A lot of that is about not feeling as though that they can protect themselves and their community, and that ability to be a man and just live like everyone else is seems to be threatened, and that can be very stressful on not only the individual but even those people that are not necessarily directly affected by certain things that are going on in society. It indirectly may affect you and cause you to feel a level of stress that you may wonder where it's coming from. But it can be, you can have indirect stress based on things that are happening around you.
Right. I agree with that. And so you already led into the next thing I wanted us to discuss was, you brought up about the current protests, and I didn't even think about that. So I thank you for bringing that piece into it, because I was going to go into about how much more, COVID-19. I mean, we are in the midst of a world pandemic. And, contrary to what many want to believe, especially here in the United States, the numbers are rising. Many men have lost their jobs, or maybe their hours have been decreased, or if they have businesses, their businesses have been affected by the current pandemic. And so, just add briefly, in what other ways that this pandemic has added to, men's stress level, how much more of a role this current pandemic has played in men and, them being able to release and manage stress.
Yeah, I think about it as a whole. As a social worker, I think about I look at things in a holistic viewpoint, whole mind, body, spirit, and then social, and how all that kind of plays in. And you think about just, physical, worrying about if, you can go out and be around other people. Now you have this issue with, this I guess, thing about who wears a mask, who thinks it's okay, who doesn't. Do you put yourself in that position? You're getting a little cabin fever, but you want to go out. But half these people think that they don't need a mask and impacting your health. So now you have to make some decisions. The babies want to go out and play, but you don't want to let them go out and do certain things. So everybody's kind of like stuck in the house, and I love you, but I'm going to need you to go over there maybe for a little while, because I may be feeling a tad bit of stress. So it really does, again, what's going on in society, this pandemic, these things about the issue with, police brutality and all the, employment issues, all of those things, have an impact on what level of stress. And not everyone's the same. I mean, honestly, everyone deals with deals with these issues better. And I always say that, people that deal with issues and look towards the, cup half full versus cup half empty, they're going to be able to deal with the things that come into their life in a different way. That's just the way that it's going to be, because it's all about, like you say, you think about as a man thinking, so is he. If you think things can be better, many times you present that, and it has the chance of going in that direction. But if you think things are not, many times what's going to happen to you, they're probably not, because the way that you live your life, the things that you do, the way that you think, that it's going to be going in that negative direction, and it's almost going to be self-fulfilling, and you're going to be thinking that somehow it got there all by itself, instead of understanding that it had a little help getting there, and that help was you. Some things you
Right.
can't change, but we have to be able to think about those things that we can change. And that's where they say how much stress, how you deal with it, will, that's going to impact the way that, things sometimes will turn out.
Right. That reminds me of that. So you just reminded me of that serenity prayer. How does it go? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, but the wisdom to know the difference. Yeah, that's what you just reminded me of. You talked about, you mentioned isolation, and if I'm understanding correctly, that is one of the symptoms that men display when they're undergoing stress. They tend to isolate themselves more frequently. And see, now again, another good point you brought up, in the midst of this pandemic, to where you're literally almost forced to isolate yourself. So if you already stressed and isolated before this pandemic, it is like intensified, like forget about it. It is grossly intensified now. And so I want like what is something you would recommend to the audience tonight as far as isolation and ways to kind of deal or combat that isolation, that symptom of isolation?
Well, I mean, when it comes down to it, it is a lot like other things that help us deal with things on just an everyday level. Finding those things that you enjoy, because being by oneself. I mean, some people like that. Some people, don't deal with it as well. But being by oneself is not necessarily a bad thing. Isolation it's what you do in the isolation, and that is, are you doing more things that are negative than positive to help yourself get through this time in isolation? You might take up something like reading. Find good movies that you like and enjoy. Music. Take this time to actually sit down and maybe spend some quality time. Push yourself to spend that extra quality time with your family, doing things that you hadn't done before, playing board games, maybe spending time just doing things that find out different things about one another that you may not have done. Making up games that'll help you, broaden that what you know about your kids, your life. A lot of times when we going around prior to this, we're so busy in our jobs and our school that we kind of a lot of times pass one another during the day and the night. A lot of times we're so busy kind of like in our own lives with work and school and things. This might be a time where you actually can sit down and talk to that person that you've been living with all these years and find out something new about them.
Wow. If I didn't know any better, I think you done seen my Coach Gene health tips for the week. Because you done already done delved into, it's cool though. It's cool. It's all good. Okay. Because I'd rather them hear that from you as the professional, the SME on this topic. So you hit number 4 of my this week's health tips, Coach Gene health tips. And so another few I wanted to share with the audience is, speak with their doctor, their pastor, a trusted advisor, because it's good to talk some things out and to talk some things through, and it's not good to keep stuff bottled up inside. And then my second Coach Gene health tip for the week on this topic, give yourself some time to relax. Take a vacation. Use some of that paid time off, If you can't take a vacation now, my husband and I, we couldn't get away. We'd do a staycation. Well, what is that? We'd go into downtown, midtown Atlanta, chill in one of them hotels for the week where we in the middle of everything, can get out, walk, see the sights, do something for fun, not deal with the traffic, because traffic is stressful in and of itself, especially if you in one of the big cities, but take a staycation, but find some ways to relax. And my go-to, and my audience is probably tired of me talking about exercise, but hey, going for walks, being out in nature, come on, because you are fitness buff. So share that tip with them for me, please.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you said it. I mean, that's normally my go-to, and when I'm feeling stressed, I hit the weights. I go for a walk. Like I say, within being isolated, it's you have to be, of course, careful on how you do it, but it's being away from individuals during the time that you walk or bike or things like that. You absolutely can do it. So that's always my go-to when I do that. And try, another thing is, when we get that, a lot of people overeat. They eat the wrong things. We eat a lot of comfort foods that may not necessarily be good for us health-wise. So, take a look at your diet as well. I'm a big proponent of making sure that you look at the things that you eat, because they absolutely will impact your overall health, and especially through this time when a lot of folks haven't been as active as they normally would have been. Just make sure that you take a look at your diet. And the one thing, and I don't know how much longer that we have, so I'll just make sure that I make this point as well. When it comes to stress, understand that stress and burnout, they're different in ways, but I would make the primary point that stress still has. It's not necessarily always bad, of course, but stress is more action oriented. Stress will come into your life, and you still kind of have the ability to kind of get up in the morning, kind of like go do the things that you need to do, even though you're stressed and you got that headache and your stomach hurting and your back hurting and you got these aches and pains. You still kind of get up and go about your day, because there's still some hope or there that things can get better. And so stress is more as action oriented. When you get to the point where you feel burned out, you completely burned out, that's a point where it's inaction, where you feeling issues of depression, helplessness and hopelessness and things of that nature. It more damages you emotionally versus physically, where the stress will impact you. And the one thing that I would ask people to understand here is that when it comes to stress could potentially kill you. It can potentially be a things where it physically. When I talk to, and I remember saying this to you, Coach Gene, when you're coming through, if you don't get rid of the stress, or you don't feel a way to deal with the stress in your life, it negatively impacts the way that your body reacts to getting healthy. And so reducing your stress is paramount when it comes to not only just day to day, but especially if you're going through some physical or medical issues, because of how it impacts you. But when you get to the point of burnout and that hopelessness and depression, not only stress will potentially kill you, but when you get to burnout phase, that's when you begin to think about possibly sometimes ways of harming yourself, because you just don't have the energy. You don't have the ability. You just don't have any sense that things really can get better. I just remember real quickly, and I'll make this point. I remember being when I was deploying, And I remember feeling very stressed the first time that I went over there, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going on, what's going to go on. You're hoping for the best, but hey, you just never know. And so over there, you just, all this nervous, stressful, anxious energy is kind of going on.
Right.
As time
That's
goes
right.
on, you get into a rhythm and you're doing your job and
that's
things
right.
going on. And like you say, that after so many months of doing that so long, monotony all the time, it gets to a point where you can get kind of burned out. I mean,
right.
It's a lot of weight on you. And so you get to the point where you just feel like, oh man, I'm kind of done. It's been 9 months over here doing this thing, and I just don't have anything to give anymore. It's that when you don't have anything to give point where that burnout begins to kind of, that's where you're in trouble. That's when you're in trouble,
right? Because you have no more fight left in you. What I call the spirit of a warrior. There's no more fight left in you. That's how I would describe it. And so I want to just share real briefly, because we have probably about 5 or 6 minutes left. But I want to just share real briefly with our audience tonight. According to the American Institute of Stress, these are major. These are not all inclusive, but these are like the top 4 complications of stress and how stress affects men's health. Number 1, prostate cancer. Stress on the nerves increase risk of prostate cancer, and stress also promotes tumor growth and the spread of cancer, and that's with any cancer. The second one is stress can lead to ED. We know what ED is. We talked about this last week during our discussion on men's health, cardiovascular health. Stress increases the risk of infertility because stress affects testosterone levels, amongst other things related to production and counts dealing with the reproductive system. Hint, hint. And stress increases the risk of heart disease. And we talked about cardiovascular health in men last week. Stress increases the risk of heart disease, heart attacks, high blood pressure, strokes. It increases cholesterol levels. And so these are just complications of prolonged stress, long-term stress. We're talking bad chronic stress, long-term stress, because like my guest said, there is a such thing as good stress, but the good stress is the stress that motivates you, right? It makes you rise to the occasion, makes you want to be better and do better, right? That ain't the one we talking about. That kind of stress is your friend. We're talking about this bad, chronic, long-term stress that is your foe. It is the enemy and can cause all these things to go on with your health. And so I just want to real quickly just share tips on how to reduce it. If you need more tips on how to reduce or manage your stress better, please hit me up at www.spiritofawarrior.life on more information on how you can recognize your body's reaction to stress, how you can learn daily tips on how to manage or release stress holistically, and if you need to refocus, take the time out to focus on your most valuable asset. People, men, we love you. You are your most valuable asset. Yes, you, my brother. Sisters, get on board with this as well. Let's support our men, the men in our lives, by giving them the gift of health. And so I hope that's cool with you. Cool beans if it is. Because we got to get our men. We want y'all around for a long, long time. And so we want you to have the best quality of life as possible. And real quickly, this coming Sunday, June 21st, is Father's Day here in the United States. I invite you all to join me on Facebook Live on my Health Chat with Coach Jean page at 8 p.m. this coming Sunday, June 21st, for Sunday self-care sessions. And if you are not on Facebook, I will be posting as well to my YouTube channel, Health Chat with Coach Jean. So please subscribe to my page. I really appreciate it. Go check out my coach website, spiritofawarrior.life. And also, if there is a wellness topic of interest that you would like featured here in the chat room, please send that information to Health Chat with Coach Jean. Jean is spelled Jean @gmail.com. And if you are a healthcare provider and would like to join me here in the chat room as well, shoot me that email and we can make it happen. And so, Mr. Rainey, I got 1 minute. You got any final comments before we exit the chat room?
I would just want to say thank you for inviting me. This was actually fun. I knew you were going to make it fun, but I will also say fun and informative. But I would just say, based on the, related to the topic, men, anyone that's out there, wives, girlfriends, people that are listening, help your man feel comfortable being expressive, to express the way that he may be feeling. A lot of our guys have been raised to feel and think and act a certain way, and being in that individual's life is making it a safe zone, as you said, Coach Jean, to where he can land and feel as though that he can, come and console. You can be his consoler. And, when things are going on, when he's feeling afraid and scared, that it's okay for him to come to you and be able to say that and feel supported. Sometimes it's tough to allow your man to kind of get out of that role, but if he doesn't, it's going to negatively affect his overall health, and that's going to affect the family as a whole. So just be a safe landing zone. Just be a safe landing zone for him. That's all.
Wow. Thank you so much for those words of wisdom. Ladies, you heard it right here, straight from a man's heart. Mr. Rainey, my friend, I thank you so much for joining me here tonight in the chat room. Thank you so much. I salute you.
Thank you for inviting me.
You are so welcome. And to my producer, Mr. Jerry Royce Live, and the entire Positive Power 21 radio family, thank you so much. To you, the listening audience, thank you for tuning in once again to Health Chat with Coach Jean Turner. I'm your host, your girl, Miss Fit Foxy 50 and beyond. One day I'm going to tell y'all the story behind that, but that's for another time. Thank you all. To all the fathers, happy Father's Day. To all the father figures, happy Father's Day. God bless you all. And
happy
good
Juneteenth,
night.
everyone.
Yes, Juneteenth too. Thank you for reminding me, Mr. Rainey. Happy Juneteenth as well. Peace and health to everybody. Love you all. God bless. Good night.
You're listening to Jerry Royce Live Worldwide Podcast.
Be empowered. Be strong. Take charge. Speak life. Live life abundantly. Get with it now. You are now entering the chat room. Health Chat with Coach Jean, that is, where we debate, debunk, educate, empower, impart, and raise awareness on all things related to health, healing, and holistic well-being, body, mind, and spirit. Let's go.
You are listening to Jerry